because he lives. I was dead in the grave. I was covered in sin and shame. I heard mercy call my name. He rolled the stone away. Amen. I know he holds my life, my future in his hand. Amen. Amen. I'm alive because he lives. Amen. Amen. Let my song join the one that never ends. Amen. Amen. I'm alive because he lives. Amen. Amen. Let my song join the one that never ends because he lives. Because he lives.
Here today, I think sometimes maybe we're not so different from those women on that first Easter morning. We've been wounded, our hearts have been broken, our dreams have been dashed at different times. There are times where we are looking through a veil of our grief. And there are times where our expectations haven't been met, and we come to Jesus with those earthly expectations. And we put limits on what God is able to do. Maybe that hope is too big, or this problem is too great. My sin is too bad. We put limits on what God can do, but we can also allow our experiences of people in our life to limit what we allow God to do. People who didn't meet the expectations we placed on them. People who let us down. People who disappointed us. And we can allow those experiences to set our expectations for what we're expecting God to do. There are other times we've pictured Jesus to be something other than who he really is. You know, those disciples welcoming Jesus in to Jerusalem on Palm Sunday had a certain expectation of who they thought Jesus was going to be. And there are times we have those same kind of expectations for Jesus to be something other than who he really is. He's raised us up to new life with him. Paul says in Romans 8 that if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit. So how do we get that spirit to live in us? How can we know that he does? Well, Paul goes on to say, if you declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Now, it's tempting to think, oh, that's easy. We just have to say it with our mouth and believe it in our hearts, and we're good to go. It's another thing to live it out. It's another thing to really live it, to declare that Jesus is Lord, not just with your mouth, but with your life. That first Easter morning, the women came, looking through that veil of grief, looking with earthly expectations and looking for closure. But what they were shown gave them and us a vision of hope. It gave us kingdom expectations and a new beginning.